What's going on YouTube? Chris here. I want to bring you on an update today of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, Digibyte, and Link. We're mostly going to be on the 1-day time frame. We may zoom into the 4-hour time frame to get a little bit more detail on some things, but I wanted to start here with Bitcoin. If you guys get some from these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Trying for 200 likes on this video if you get something from it. Appreciate you being here with me today. So overall for Bitcoin, we have broken out of this yellow downtrend line, guys, still holding it. So with how bullish Bitcoin has been here and these big strong moves that it's been making out basically from around $9,000, this is important because what happens a lot of the time is we'll consolidate sideways before we get that next pump up. That's something you always want to watch out for. Sometimes you don't get those massive retracements. Just to give you an example, kind of looking over here, when we had this huge run up, we really just moved sideways for the most part before we had that next move up. Same over here. We had a move up, we kind of moved sideways, and then we moved up again. So this is something that I want you to be aware of right now. Main area that I want to hold for support is $10,562. That's the area that we broke up. That was previous resistance. We want to turn that into support. And you can see we did back test it on yesterday's candle. And that was a bit of a doji candle. So we're going to have to wait to see where today's candle close is. But if you're in a Bitcoin position, guys, this is where you want to continue to let it run. Okay, if you're holding for the longer term, trying to ride out these cycles, this is where you want to ride these waves. Just continue to stay in your position. We have not broken down through anything that would show me that we're starting to turn bearish. Okay, we may have a little retracement, a little cool down, but in terms of actually changing the trend, it was so significant out of this consolidation that we broke to the upside on heavier volume. That's what you want to see, because it could have went either way here. It could have been a huge break to the downside there, and then we'd be talking about a whole different scenario. But the whales pushed it to that upside, and now we're just going to see if we consolidate sideways or if we're going to get a little bit more cooling down before we get that next pump up. I want you to be aware the RSI is at 80 right now, so we're overextended by about 10 right now. But like we've talked about in cryptocurrency, we can push up into the 90s, so be aware of that. Our stock RSI is at 94 and 97 right up here, so we're getting pegged out there. But remember, with the stock, you can move sideways for quite a while. You see these areas, how you stay up high and move sideways for a long time, or over here. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that. I'd really watch that RSI and see what we do with these candlestick patterns up in this area. So 10,562 is support. Overhead resistance, we'd want to get up to 12,387 is what we're going to be looking at there. So that's Bitcoin. Next one we're going to get into is Ethereum, which is at $322 right now. ETH has really made some nice strong moves. Remember, this is on the 1-day time frame, and I wanted to show it to you. Ethereum has a great shot, guys. I mean, we really could move to $500 so fast, depending on what we do with this area. $332. Are we going to retrace and come back and potentially try to find support? Support areas are going to be $285 I'm going to look at, and then it's going to be around $253 are the area of support right now that I'd want to hold. In terms of overhead resistance, we got to get over $332. If we can get over $332, that could give us a shot up into the $400 range. $417 I'd look at, and then I'd be up there around that psychological $500. What I want you to be aware of, yet again, the RSI up around 82 right now, so we're getting overextended. You can see our stock right now 93, 96. Looks like we're starting to get a little bit of a downside cross here, so I want you to be aware of that right now. But we didn't get a lot of massive selling here with our bearish candle stick that we had up there. So we almost had close to what would be a shooting star candle. Then we basically had a little bit thicker, but almost like a doji candle, just a little bit of a warning. Maybe a cool down could be coming, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with this candle today. Are we going to be able to get a higher candle close than what we had yesterday? Still looking great up above our 30, our 60, our 100, and our 200 moving averages. You can see they're starting to fan out, and that's a good sign in terms of a strong uptrend. That's what you want to look for. If we get into the technicals here for Ethereum, we are looking at, let's see here, a 4 sell, 7 neutral, and a 17 buy. Moving averages, we have a strong buy. Oscillators, this is where we're getting overextended like we talked about. 3 sell, 6 neutral, 2 buy. So for us to even consolidate a little bit to sideways, or at least go back down and test that $282, I wouldn't be so shocked with that. But the trend is up. This one you want to still, like we talked about, not financial advice, stay in those positions if you're holding it longer term. You want to catch these big massive waves when they come in, okay? But don't be shocked if we do start to get some type of retracement to cool down that RSI before we potentially can start moving to the upside over top of that 332. So that's going to be Ethereum. Let me know if you're here for ETH. And also let me know what you think with Bitcoin, guys. Are we going to continue to hold over that 10,500, or is this all just a big pump out, fake out, breakout, and we're going to get dumped on hard? I want to know your opinion down low. Next, we're going to look at Litecoin, which has been a market leader here. It's been doing really well. Made a nice move up over top of that 200 moving average. That was the main thing I wanted to get up over top of because we were trapped below it since about March 8th, 2020. Okay, so the next area of overhead resistance, if we can get up to it, is going to be $64.11. We are getting a little overextended right now. RSI is at 77, stocks at 195. You can see we're starting to curl here just a little bit, but this is where you want to stay in that position. Continue to let this ride if you're in a Litecoin position. Obviously, guys, it all depends on what you're doing. If you're longer term holding, if you're swing trading, you'd still want to stay in these positions right now. But if you're a shorter term trader and you're starting to see these things up around 80 or whatnot, and it's coming at resistance levels, that's maybe when you want to take some of that profit, wait for it to cool down, and then potentially do it again. Because you can see after each spike, guys, typically we do have a cooling down period. Spike up, little cool down, spike up, little cool down. Just is what it is in this market. It has to breathe. Okay, so you have to be aware of that. So overall support, let's hold $50 for Litecoin. That's what I'm going to be looking at. Overhead resistance, looking at about that 64 range. If we get into our technicals, we have a 3 sell 7 neutral 18 buy, oscillators 2 sell 6 neutral 3 buy, moving averages looking strong there. So that's why I said I would probably stay in this position. We're getting a cross here as well of our 30 over top of our 60 moving average. Typically when we get that downside red cross here, we get pushed hard to the downside. When we get the green one, we get continued move to the upside, and we did just get that green cross. So that's something I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to as well. So that's Litecoin. If you're here for that, let me know down low. We're going to move into XRP. This is the position I've really been playing here. Still just letting it ride right now. We actually closed, or basically closed yesterday right below the overhead resistance area that I wanted to get over top of, and that was 0.23585 is what we're looking at. Today's candle close, if we could close up above that, that would be a big deal for us to potentially start getting up to that 0.24707, and then it would be up to try to get to around that 0.28573 is what I'd be looking at as overhead resistance. This purple trend line, want to continue to draw this out. We want to hold this. Don't want to break below that. We have had our green cross here of our 30 over top of our 60. So that's a big deal. And you can see how we're getting into that impulse wave now. It's just depending on how far this impulse wave is going to take us before we correct and potentially continue to move to the upside. Overall, it'd be great to get over top of that 0.34134, but that's going to take some time. We're just going to have to be patient with that. Overall support, don't want to go back below this 200 moving average, because if you make it up above it and then you drop down below it, that's going to be a big sign of weakness. All right. Our RSI is at 78, stock 100 and 100. That's completely pegged out right now because you can see all the green days that we've had in a row, and the stock goes off those closed prices. And then if we take a look at the technicals here, we have 3 sell, 7 neutral, 18 buy, moving averages, strong buy, oscillators, 3 sell, 6 neutral, and a 2 buy there. So for me, I'm going to continue to let my position run because I was in around 19.5 cents. I want to continue to let this move until I see a sign of topping. Something like this at overhead resistance where we had a bearish engulfing candle, a lot of volume. That's the time, guys. That's something I would be looking at to take more of my profits at that point. So that's going to be XRP. The next one we're going to move into is Digibyte. Let me know if you're here for Digibyte as well and what you think of Digibyte. If you think this is going to be the one that really hits a home run in the long term, guys, for Digibyte, because I've always talked to you about this as well. I think this is one that you would want to hold a little bit more for the longer term. Not so much trading, just due to the volatility of it. So overall, if we put in some horizontal raise here, overall top that we'd need to get up above is going to be about 5 cents. So we'll put that up there where we had a double top before, right? And then what we were looking at is this symmetrical triangle. So we go up like this, basically. And I'll show you what we had before we broke out of Digibyte here. So it was basically along these lines. Just a rough symmetrical triangle here, a little pennant action. We broke up. If you see here, we had what's called a 5% failure. So people took their profits once we broke out of here, because a lot of people, when they saw this candle, they most likely said on heavy volume, which I don't blame them, this is the time to jump in. And we went up and we started to have those wicks at the previous high, and we saw some rejection. Okay, we're still putting in higher lows, so this is where it's interesting. We're really getting pent up for Digibyte, and we're just going to have to wait to see if we can get up over top of that 0.028763. is going to be the area in terms of support. What I would want to hold is roughly that 0.019245 is going to be the areas as well. RSI is at 57, so it's not too overextended like a lot of the a lot of the other coins. And then if we look at the technicals, we're looking at a 4 sell, 9 neutral, 15 buy. Oscillators, 1 sell, 8 neutral, 2 buy. Looking at a strong buy for the moving averages there. So that's Digibyte. I'd really pay attention to those areas, because if Digibyte, guys, if it can hold this support here and get that next pop to the upside, it could be something pretty special there. If we're able to get up to that 5 cents, we'd be looking at massive percentage gains. So say we did pump up to that, you're looking at over 100% if we do end up getting this continuation out of here. All right. Next one we're going to go to is Link. Promised people some Link here. We're going to check it out. Let's see. All right, so Link's at $7.11 right now. Still looking on the 1-day time frame. As this one where I said these were the main areas that I was looking at. $6.59, which we did come down and tap as support. That's an area that I wanted to hold. So far, we are still holding that, as well as this 30 EMA, the 60, the 100, and the 200 moving average. So that's a good thing. If we do break down through that $6.59, I truthfully, guys, would look down to around that $5 would be an area where I would be a buyer. Right around this 100 moving average, the area that we broke out of the previous top, we would want that to become support. Now, if we zoom out here, you can see how strong of a move it's been, though. When we broke out from this top here, it came on a lot of volume, but we have to be aware that we also had a lot of selling volume near this top here. And I'm sure a lot of guys are kind of like me, just patiently waiting. They've been in Link, they've traded Link, they've got some profit from it, and now they're just patiently waiting to see what it's going to do in the longer term. I do like the fact that the RSI is down at 52. It's cooled down a little bit. It's not up around that 80 or 90 anymore. Our stock is really low. It's at 1.62 and 2.05. So we have had a decent little sell-off here from the top. We're looking at roughly about 20% that we have sold off. And that's the moves in this cryptocurrency space, guys. It just is what it is. And these are the things that we have to be aware of. You know, with these retracements and how deep they can be sometimes before we potentially get moving to the upside again. So I didn't want to keep this video too long, guys. That's what I'm looking for Link. Trying to get up above roughly about $7.92 to support. We're going to be looking at $6.59 there. Let's see if we can get a little move to the upside off some of those key areas. God bless you all. Take care, my friends.